So I heard a lot of responsibilities there. Healer, high priestess, Isis. How is that manifesting itself in your world now?
Well, I think that when we live a myth, we live both sides of the myth. That I lived both the healer part of the myth and Osiris's dismemberment. And I see the dismemberment as a metaphor for stress in our lives. We use language like, we feel scattered, our hearts are broken. We all have a physical expression of our inner narrative. And I treat that physical expression. And as humans, we connect with story more than we connect with process. My clinical expertise is in decompressing the vagus nerve, but that doesn't really get anybody emotional. But if I tell you that the root system in your body has lost its voice and that we need to find its voice, then I can really, then people really get engaged in the process. And so by treating not just the physical body, but to treat the myth and the metaphor and that inner narrative, to me, that's the shortest path to your highest potential.
Now I'm curious. So when was the first time that you drew that connection between mythology and the underlying healing powers of mythology?
So I closed up my office a couple years ago because I knew, I have a string of credentials through my professional association, and I had kind of opened up a lot of, or what had opened up for me were a lot of psychic medium skills, and I spent some time trying to understand that, and stuffing myself into a physical therapy box was actually really stressful because it wasn't letting me show up with all of me. And I read Graham Hancock's Fingerprints of the Gods, and he's a journalist by trade, but he really has challenged the archaeology and anthropology communities on how they explain certain things. And one of the things he highlighted was that mythology was a mode of transmitting scientific information, and the myth of Isis and Osiris contains all of the numbers of the Earth's precessional cycle, how it rotates and tilts over time. And so that kind of led me in two directions. Like currently the Earth is at a 23.5 degree tilt, and my PT brain was like, well, what's 23.5 degrees from the midline? I measure angles all the time. And the opening at the base of your skull, where your vagus nerve comes out, is 23.5 degrees from the midline of the skull. And so the other piece is that, and so like maybe a month later or so, I was doing an online stress management thing. It was around the holidays, and I ended up talking a lot about the ventricles in the brain that make cerebral spinal fluid. And I have a favorite picture that I've in a set of anatomy books of the ventricles of the brain that I've had for years and years. I've had these books for many years. So I thought, well, I'll take a picture of that and put it on my social media. And so at this point, just for my own edification and dealing with my own midlife crisis or my own midlife spiritual awakening, I had been exploring astrology. And so this image is a compilation of MRI images to give you a 3D picture of what the ventricles look like. It's not a drawing. And when I opened the book, I said, oh, they look just like the ram's horns for Aries. And in astrology, Aries rules the head. And so then I was like, oh, I wonder where the rest of it goes. And so your hyoid bone in your throat, the way it sits on top of your larynx, looks just like the symbol for Taurus. And in astrology, Taurus rules the throat. Your aortic arch is the same shape as the symbol for Leo, and Leo rules the heart. Libra rules the kidneys, and the sign for Libra is a scale, and your kidneys hang off your aorta and inferior vena cava very much like a scale. A woman's reproductive system looks just like a scorpion. And Scorpio actually has 3 symbols that go with it. It's got the scorpion, the snake, which could be the male phallus, and then the phoenix, rising from the ashes where we create from. And so it works through the whole body. And so that really connected the dots for me, that this is just a way that science was coded into. Mythology was just a different way of talking about medicine and a different way of talking about science. And I think that the story really, I think maybe the our ancient people were more connected with the idea that these spiritual underpinnings of our physical dysfunction were really the thing that we needed to treat.
Wow. So, in 3 words, what is your meaning of life?
Connect, align, expand. So, we know that stress is the root of all of our diseases, through both ancient traditions and modern research. And that connection is a really potent remedy. And that's connection with ourselves, connection with each other, connection with the world around us. There are many, many levels on which we can connect. And as a physical therapist, alignment has been my thing. Right. That's what we do. We focus on alignment. But I think we all think way too small about alignment. When I think about the vagus nerve, I think about the mycelium network of the earth. And I think about the Laniakea supercluster, of which our Milky Way galaxy is just one little teeny part. And I think we have to look at these, like how we are literally a fractal of the cosmos and of the earth, and what analogous structures that we have, and to really connect our alignment across all of those dimensions in order to really, truly thrive and heal and be the highest expression of ourselves. And I think that if I was going to give you one definition of pain and illness and disease, or one source of where it comes from, I would say that it's resisting our own expansion in an ever-expanding universe. Like, we know our universe is ever-expanding, and I think that when we resist that, whether we knowingly do that or not, that's when pain and injury and disease and stress and addiction and all of those things show up in our lives.